Thank you. Just to give you put the EIB into context, the EIB environmental performance standards rely heavily on the principles and standards contained in EU law. So we take all our guidance from the EU Commission. So all projects in EU and accession countries must comply with the EU EIA directive, and in the rest of the world, it's the process and content that have to be consistent with the requirements of the directive. So for us, the EU EIA directive is the cornerstone of EIB's environmental assessment function. What does it mean in terms of integrating climate change safeguards, if you want to call it that, into our due diligence and also for our promoters? Like IFC, most of our financing is of private sector, although we do some municipal financing. And therefore, all projects must comply with the appropriate national and EU legal requirements, and that includes EU-related climate change policy. In all projects, the promoter has to apply best available technology as defined, including the rational use of energy. So there's always an energy efficiency component and an assessment in all our projects. The projects with potential significant absolute or relative greenhouse gas emissions have to be identified, and the promoter has to apply cost-effective, appropriate mitigation measures. And in order to do that, we have developed a methodology with a baseline and for all sectors that they have to use for their calculation. It only applies to what we call single investment loans. Our intermediated financing is not subject to greenhouse gas or carbon footprinting, although we are coming under pressure from DG Climate Action to do so. So all our equity funds, our intermediated lending will at some point be subjected to carbon footprinting. In projects which might be significantly affected adversely by climate change and increased frequency in extreme weather events, we require the promoter to identify and apply also cost-effective, appropriate adaptation measures to ensure project resilience in the face of uncertainty. And these are also soft as well as hard measures, so using either ecosystem services or any infrastructure, hard infrastructure. The EIB requires also the promoter to identify, quantify, and value the economic and financial value of significant variations in greenhouse gas emissions associated with the project into the project viability calculations, so in order to inform the investment decision. We have a cost for carbon, which then gets factored into also our economic rate of return. The EIB requires also the promoter to quantify and make public ex ante and ex post GHG emissions of a project according to international good practice accounting and reporting standards. And the promoter should identify and any potentially adverse direct relationships between climate change aspect of the project, either due to GHG emissions or as a result of adaptation measures, on the one hand, either social or biodiversity aspects. So if there are any impacts on ecosystem services or conflicts between renewable energy and biodiversity or on indigenous people, these need to be identified and a solution sought. And we go on to also look at potential compensation measures. All these related practices that we have put into place, it's taken us about a good 2 years, are being mainstreamed. However, we are coming under enormous pressure to apply them throughout the whole portfolio. We're not sure how to do it. We're still in a learning curve. And certainly the correlation between biodiversity, adaptation, and climate change are some of the biggest issues that we are facing. In addition, we do have some technical assistance to assist promoters because it's not always obvious, but resources are scarce, we have to say. Certainly coming from the Commission, you may have read in the press, for example, that the Commission has given us the new entry reserves to manage and to apply for carbon capture and storage projects, the number of pilot projects. Not sure how this is going to be managed. We don't know what the pipeline is going to look like, and we don't know if that is the best solution, certainly. But as the European financing arm of the Commission, we have to apply EU climate change policies. And looking at a project level, it becomes increasingly difficult. So bringing the whole concept and the rhetoric down to a project, it's not always obvious. So that's what we've been doing so far.